Today, we're wrapping it up, volume versus efficiency and what it means for all the different positions in fantasy football. And talking about the tight end position, sometimes it's not about how much a tight end can take, it's about how well it can take it.
Yeah. Analytics off the chain, other channels not the same. Jake and Kyle, you know the name. Headliner Nation, we running the game.
Yo, what is going on, everybody? Welcome back to the Fantasy Headliners. Kyle here to wrap up my video series on volume versus efficiency. And if you've missed any of the episodes before this, make sure you go back and take a look at them, especially the running back efficiency video where I give away Jake's Nick Chubb jersey. We still need 1,000 likes on that. We haven't quite hit it. Why don't you want it? So make sure you go check out that video. But we got running back volume and efficiency, wide receiver volume and efficiency. We've done tight end volume, and now it is time for tight end efficiency. So I told you in that last video, there might be a surprise candidate coming at the top of this episode. So let's go ahead and jump right into it so I don't keep you waiting any longer. Now, what statistics are we using? Again, as with the last video, catch percentage, yards per target, yards per reception, yards after the catch per reception, points per snap, and points per touch. Those are going to be the stats that we are going to key in on here on tight end efficiency. And let's see, to kick it off with catch percentage, who comes in at number one? I like seeing this. Patty Muth coming in, 77.9% catch percentage. Now, we do know if you watched the last video that Pat Freiermuth didn't have a ton of volume and was really low in some areas. And again, we'll kind of see that here in a minute too, pop up in some different areas. But with Patty Freiermuth, he really did, honestly, everything he could possibly do with the type of volume he was given last year. It wasn't a ton, and it was really short dink and dunk passes, but he did all of that. He caught touchdowns. So to see him up here at 77.9%, leading this 16 category group here of tight ends is great to see because, well, that bodes well for the future and Pat Freiermuth. And, of course, Dallas Goedert coming in there right after that. But here's where things start to get interesting, all right? And I'm going to kind of keep talking about Pat Freiermuth here because when you come over to yards per target, Dallas Goedert ended up leading the way. George Kittle, Kyle Pitts. I don't think anyone's surprised by any of that. Gronk and Andrews, Kelsey, Knox, Henry. But wait a second. Where's Patty F? He's all the way down at number 16. Yards per target, 6.45 yards per target for Pat Freiermuth last year. That's tough, man. That's really tough because, again, he was catching a majority of the balls coming his way. He was scoring touchdowns, but he wasn't able to put up a good amount of volume on the little targets that he had because they just were, again, little short dink and dunk passes. It's all it was. They weren't doing anything to stretch the field or put Pat Freiermuth in a position to put up bigger plays. Now, does he need to do that? Absolutely not. Because you've got Chase Claypool, you got Deontay Johnson, they added Pickens. You've got guys there that can do that. But the thing that's really going to help Pat Freiermuth this year is, of course, if the quarterback competition between, Mitchy Biscuits and George Pickens, that's the wrong guy, and Kenny Pickett, between those two guys, if one of them is more efficient than the other in terms of really driving the ball down the field, that's going to help open up those middle routes for Pat Freiermuth. And we might see those yards per target creep up a little bit, maybe not too much, but hopefully until this 8 area. But the yards per reception is where we would really hope to see a dramatic change there. Because in that instance, yards per reception, if he gets, if he's getting in those 8 to 9 yards per target region, and then he can have some open field, right? Just have some open field because teams are going to be more vulnerable down the field with a better quarterback at the helm. then that's going to mean Patty Freiermuth's numbers are going to go up, and that's what we want to see. Even if the volume doesn't increase, we need to see an opportunity for that efficiency to increase, and that's what's going to make him a tried and true starter every year. And if he continues to be a target in the red zone, if he is, Pat Freiermuth could be the next breakout candidate at tight end. Kyle Pitts led the way at yards per reception last year. Big plays for Kyle Pitts, 15.09 yards per reception. That's what he had. He just didn't score. He just didn't score last year. Dallas Goedert, 14.82. You know, when you have guys on the team like a Devontae Smith, you had Zach Ertz earlier in the season. You have Jalen Reagor. You had some other guys that, you know, might be looked at as field stretchers a little bit more than Goddard. To see him coming in with a 14.82 yards per reception is amazing. Absolutely great. Absolutely great. Then Gronk, Kittle, Andrews, Kelsey, Waller, your typical guys there towards the top. And then again, we get a little bit further down. Dalton Schultz this year will be interesting to see what happens with him with no more Amari Cooper. I think the volume can stay really, really consistent, if not more than what we've seen recently. The question is going to be efficiency with little weapons around him, with Cooper being gone and not 100% sure on what's going to happen with Gallup to start the year. Is he going to be able to put up that same type of efficiency with all those weapons around him? Let's head over to yards after the catch per reception. Now, Pat Freiermuth, again, coming in with a 4.15. I would expect that to go up as well because, again, you're not going to have guys in the middle of the field consistently crashing on top of you. You have that, especially with, like, linebackers, and if teams really aren't playing that nickel coverage where they take a linebacker off the field and put an extra cornerback out there. If you're not really having that because you're not really worried about having to cover that deep pass, then at that point, you're going to have guys that are going to match up in the middle of the field a little bit better with Pat Freiermuth to keep him kind of in check. We need to get that area of the field open. If that happens, then we are going to probably see those numbers climb. But the thing here, too, is all these numbers are pretty close with the exception of Hunter Henry, and that's because almost all of his volume last year really came inside the 20s. But Goddard led the way. Again, another area that Goddard led in efficiency with 6.77 yards after the catch per reception. And then, of course, guys like Kittle, Gronkowski, Kelsey, Dawson Knox is up here, Zach Ertz, Darren Waller, Kyle Pitts. Noah Fant finishing kind of right in the middle. We're going to do some talk on Noah Fant coming up here soon. Schultz, Andrews, Pat Freiermuth. I mean, if you take a look at it, Mark Andrews was 4.18 yards after the catch per reception. Pat Freiermuth was really just below that. And look at what Andrews did with his volume last year. So this number here isn't a huge indicator on whether or not a tight end is going to be successful. It definitely helps bring a little bit more upside for them if you add all the factors in together. So the hope would be at this point is that Pat Freiermuth, stays right in this area, sees this number maybe increase a little bit, but it's that last number that we talked about. That last number, yards per reception, is where we really need to see him take a step forward. Talk about fantasy points a little bit here. Points per snap, of course, our man Mark Andrews there at the very top. Kelsey, Gronkowski, Kittle, Hunter Henry at 0.19 points per snap. Being up here in the top 5. That's one area where you take a look at Hunter Henry. And again, kind of talked about it in the volume area. Volume area was not really good for him last year because, again, a lot of his production came with inside the 20. So he wasn't putting up big yards. He was scoring touchdowns, and that was really it. But when you see points like this and you're like, man, if we could just get Hunter Henry involved a little bit more outside of the 20s and maybe he keeps some of the same efficiency, even if he drops a little bit, this is still a guy that could easily find the top 12 in tight ends. Kyle Pitts, Patty Freiermuth there. Again, those touchdowns really kind of help bolstering him up. Dallas Goedert, Zach Ertz, Darren Waller, Dalton Schultz, Cole Kmet down here at 0.10. Man, I'm rooting for Cole Kmet big time. I talked about him in the volume video. I think he definitely has an opportunity to be that breakout guy this coming season. Now, what about points per touch? Points per touch, things get a little bit revamped here. Dawson Knox climbing to the top of the leaderboard with points per touch. 2.81 there. And again, decent amount of volume at times. Those touchdowns really helped him out in some of those big plays. Hunter Henry, again, a lot of touchdowns. He's higher up there. Gronkowski, Dallas Goedert, again, pretty high up here when you talk about those points per touch. So Goddard was out there. Points per snap weren't great. But Dallas Goedert also, after Zach Ertz left, was on the field anywhere from about 88 to 95% of the time last year. He was one of those tight ends last year that even though the volume wasn't 100% there, he was always on the field. And if you're always on the field, there's always an opportunity. Kelsey, Andrews, Kittle, and Schultz, Pitts, Freiermuth, Waller, Ertz, Hawkinson, Fant, Gesicki, and Kmet. Gesicki in the volume video talked about he was kind of a surprise there with as much volume as he got. But again, the efficiency, nothing doing. He's got no efficiency in any of this. So what was the average? When you take all these categories and where these guys finished, what was the average finishing spot for these guys? And unlike the volume area where Mark Andrews led, we've got a little bit of a change at the top here because Dallas Goedert led tight end efficiency last year at 3.0, followed by Kittle at 4, Gronkowski at 5, Travis Kelce at 5.16, and then Mark Andrews coming in 5th with a 5.83 mark. So Mark Andrews finishing inside the top 5, but it was Dallas Goedert that was more efficient than what Mark Andrews was. And I think it's also important to know, even with the lack of volume scoring touchdowns, Kyle Pitts' efficiency last year was still above and beyond a majority of the other tight ends in the league. Now, are we drafting him as high as we did last year? No, I am not recommending that because I didn't even recommend that last year. But this year, however, if we can get him to drop back into that tight end 5, 6 region where we can get him a little bit after these other top guys, that'd be perfect. I don't think it's going to happen because there's still going to be plenty of Kyle Pitts truthers out there. I do see some issues with consistency this year, being, again, that kind of main target with Calvin Ridley being out. Drake London's really going to help him out on the other side. They needed that type of playmaker. So hopefully Kyle Pitts is not being stared down too often. Dawson Knox, Hunter Henry, Dalton Schultz, Darren Waller, Pat Freiermuth, Noah Fant, Zach Ertz, TJ Hawkinson, Mike Gesicki, Cole Kmet, all these guys finishing towards the bottom in efficiency. Now, what's the difference, right? I talked about this in the last 2 videos, but before we talk about the difference, as of right now, hit the pause button for a second and think about it. And in the comments down below, I want you to put hashtag must have, and which tight end do you want to leave as many of your drafts with as possible this year? It could be the first tight end off the board. Maybe you want to get Mark Andrews or Travis Kelce right away. Maybe we're talking about a mid-round grab or a late-round stash. What is the one tight end? Use hashtag must have down in the comment. Put the name of the tight end that you want to have. If we get 650 likes on this video, I'm going to give away a draft guide. So again, 650 likes on the video, I'm going to give away a draft guide to somebody down in the comments who comments hashtag must have and then names their tight end that they need this season. Don't forget, if you do pre-order your draft guide, which you can do at thefantasyheadliners.com, and you end up winning, we'll refund you. So go get that. Get that pre-ordered. So as soon as it drops, you can get your hands on it. Now, difference. Who is the biggest climber between volume and efficiency? If you guessed Dallas Goedert, you are correct. And Dallas Goedert is one of my favorite tight ends to grab this season for this reason alone, and you are going to see his name pop up consistently. Gronkowski coming at number 2. Kyle Pitts, a nice 4-jump spot coming up from that volume area, being really hurt by those touchdowns last year, being higher in efficiency. Waller a little bit higher than efficiency last year. George Kittle, Pat Freiermuth, just a little bit of a move. TJ Hawkinson, only 1 spot. Hunter Henry and Cole Kmet, they didn't move at all. Their volume and efficiency were really right in line with each other. And then we saw the guys kind of take a little bit of a hit. Knox, Kelsey, Fant, Andrews, Schultz, Ertz, and Gesicki. Gesicki taking the biggest hit. Again, when you start to get into these tight ends a little bit, the higher their volume, the lower their efficiency goes. But I don't know if that's necessarily going to be completely true with every tight end. I just think it's one of those things where that's the way it played out with some of the top guys last year and some other guys who performed very, very well in just some limited touches. So for me, Dallas Goedert, again, is going to be a guy that I absolutely want to be leaving as many of my drafts with. You're probably going to see him in a must-have video. I'm going to be honest with you all, but that's the guy that I want to have. But that wraps it up, ladies and gentlemen. As I mentioned, this was the last video in volume versus efficiency. Hopefully you all enjoyed this. I got some other videos planned for you, really diving deep into stats. We got more film reviews ready for you, ladies and gentlemen. Tons of content all off season long. So if you're new here, you got to hit the subscribe button, stick around and check all that content out. Make sure you hit the like button, 650 likes. Again, I'm going to choose someone from the comments that comments hashtag must have with the name of the tight end that they want this season to win a free draft guide. Hey, hit the like button for me. Do it, baby. Do it. All right, everybody, I'm going to get out of here. All of you stay safe and stay healthy, and I will catch you on the next episode of the Fantasy Headliners.
Analytics off the chain, other channels not the same. Jake and Kyle, you know the name. Headliner Nation, we running the game. Y'all stuck on third down. Your content's plain Jane. Headliners on top now. We gonna move and change. Podcast off the rip. Draft guide, so legit. Fantasy world, our game tight. You know we about that chub life. Stuck in a rut and you need some motivation. Head to the channel for this Headliner Nation.
I'm a headliner.